So, following on from our previous location, here we are on Bincleaves, a hill above Newton's Cove on the edge of Weymouth. Behind me you can see Portland Harbour and the Isle of Portland and the breakwater that surrounds the harbour area. This was developed in the late Victorian and early Edwardian period to protect our Royal Navy whilst at anchor from an English invention, the torpedo, which was manufactured in vast numbers at Ferrybridge at the end of the harbour. But it was developed in Austria, and therefore the secret fell into foreign hands, and obviously during World War I the Austrians and Germans used it to great effect to sink shipping in at sea. However, I digress from the main reason we're here, which is to tell you more about the story of Portland, an island that is a mystery throughout the ages. Although it was occupied in the Stone Age, as you heard, it's also known to be the haunt of smugglers, pirates and wreckers. And I want to tell you a few stories about those today. Pirates, well, they would have plied their ships in the harbour, preyed on the shipping coming in to trade in Weymouth and Melcombe Regis up the river. Indeed, one of those pirates kept a secret stash in Portland Castle, the King's own castle, run by his brother-in-law, and unknown to him, some of the contraband was stored in that very King's palace. However, on the island itself, renowned for its stone, there are many deep quarries and tunnels, and it was to great effect that the smugglers would have hidden their contraband, having got it from passing ships out at sea. Those ships were foreign traders, or indeed the East India Company, a company developed to support British trade across its empire, all the way to India and China. And one of those great ships, the Abergavenny, would have been involved in this particular part of this dark business. Originally, smuggling was consisted of bringing local products from nearby neighbours, such as France. But when you're at war with a country, you can't really trade with it. But smugglers still managed to bring in vast quantities of brandy. The brandy was brought in kegs, 4.5 gallons, strapped 2 to a man and then carried for vast distances inland and hidden in caves and quarries and indeed graveyards. However, that brandy was 130% proof, and so it was cut with water and coloured with smuggled caramel, giving it that distinctive brown or bronze colour that we know today. So, brandy, of course, being a liquid, weighs quite a lot, and the smugglers were always on the lookout for a viable product that could be transported much easier. And with the development of the Indian and Chinese trade, of course, tea became generally available. Now, tea in itself, although it comes from a long distance away, came in vast kegs or blocks of tea like this, cut up into small cubes and then sold onward to the consumer. But with the wars against Spain in the early 1700s and then the American War of Independence, the government needed money, and so they taxed every product they could think of, one of which being tea. Indeed, this rose to 130% tax, putting it out of the reach of most people's pockets. Only the rich and famous could afford it. However, the smuggler dealt with the rest of the market, bringing in tea by the baleful. Tons were delivered on the shores of Dorset and the surrounding counties, cut up and then brought on to sell at markets. In 1773, to try and get rid of this smuggling, Pitt, the new Prime Minister, abolished the tax and brought it right back down, and instead decided to tax something that people couldn't avoid: windows. Windows, you say? Yes, daylight tax. Daylight tax charged on Georgian properties with these vast glass edifices. To get around that tax, people used to brick up their windows, therefore cutting down the daylight and of course the tax. But people still had to work, and so people used candles to light their work areas. So Pitt, being the ingenious Prime Minister that he was, developed the candle tax. The more expensive the candle, the more money you paid. But he hadn't thought about people's ingenuity either, and they went back to an old medieval recipe, something called a rushlight, a simple plant gathered from the local waterways, dipped in tallow, which is pig fat, and then burnt. However, they don't give off much light, so people used to light both ends of the rushlight to allow them to work later into the evenings. It's where we get the term burning the candle at both ends, which means you're working far too hard. But eventually, the taxation and the smuggling managed to even itself out. And so the real defeat of the smugglers was in fact the removal of taxation after the Napoleonic Wars. And in the late 1850s, when the empire was vast and goods were being brought in everywhere, taxation was reduced on loads of products, and in fact tea went from 130% to just 12.5%, almost killing off the requirement for the smuggling trade overnight. You can come on a tour and learn all about those things and much more, of course. There's so much history out there that you walk over every day of your life and maybe don't know. Come and join us on a Dorset Timewalk Tours tour, or give us a call and book your own special tour on a subject that interests you. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you soon.